Let's practice adding fractions that have uncommon denominators together. If we're going to be practicing adding fractions with uncommon denominators, I'm assuming you've already had some practice with adding fractions that do have common denominators. If not, feel free to check out one of my previous videos where we practice adding fractions with common denominators first. As usual, if you'd like to download a free copy of this PDF, you can find a link to that in the description below. Let's jump right into it. So for number 1, we have the fractions 1/2 plus 1/3, but notice right away that they do not have common denominators. They are uncommon. Now, you can use prime factorizations, you could do it in your head, or you can use the ladder method as I'm doing right now, but we need to go ahead and find out when the first time they meet, or the LCM of 2 and 3 are, right? So 2 and 3 have nothing in common besides 1, so that's going to be 2, and that's going to be a 3 here. And if we go ahead and just multiply these outer numbers together, 1 times 2 times 3 is going to be 6, so the LCM is going to be 6. Now how do we get 6 for both fractions here? So if we take this 1/2 and we have this 1/3, we need to go ahead and rewrite both of these fractions to get 6 on the bottom. Now 2 times 3 will get you the 6, and then 1 times 3 on top, you got to do the same thing. 3 times 2 on the bottom will get you 6, and you're going to do the same thing for this one on top. All right, so if we go ahead and do that, the new fraction here is going to be, or the rewritten fractions, are going to be 3/6 plus 2/6. Okay, now that they have common denominators, we can go ahead and add these together. So it's going to be 3 plus 2 over 6 with their common denominators. And then 3 plus 2 is going to be 5, so we do have 5/6 here, right? So notice how we did get common denominators. We made both of them have 6 on the bottom here. And then once they had common denominators of 6, then we could add them. For number 2, we have 1/2 plus 2/3, so this one's kind of similar, right? Nothing too different than the first example, so just a little bit of extra practice. So we already actually know when 2 and 3 meet, so it's going to be at 6, so I'm just going to use that, because if you memorize that too, then you will not have to do that every single time. So we have 1/2 here, but we're adding 2/3 on instead of 1/3. Okay, so we know they're going to meet at 6. Let's multiply this one by 3 and by 3. Let's multiply this one by 2 and by 2, top and bottom. And if we do that, then the 1/2 is going to be the same thing as 3/6 when we're talking about sixth. And then this 2/3 is going to be 4/6 when we're talking about sixth. Okay, now that they have common denominators, we can add the 3 plus 4 on top. 3 plus 4 on top is going to be 7, so we have 7/6. And as a mixed number, if you'd like to write that, that's going to be 1 and 1/6. Okay, so notice how we did get common denominators of 6 here, and once they were in common, then we can keep that all the way throughout the final answer. Okay, so get those common denominators. Let's check out number 3. For number 3, it looks like we have this 1/4 plus 1/3, so these denominators are not the same, but when do 3 and 4 meet for the first time? Well, we can go ahead and figure that out. 3 and 4, looks like 3 and 4 have nothing in common besides 1, so this 4 and 3 are going to come on down. Multiplying 1 times 4 times 3, that's going to be 12, so that's going to be the LCM here, right? So that's the first time 4 and 3 meet for the first time, so we have 1/4 plus 1/3, and we need to make both of these denominators equal to 12. So 4 times 3 will get us that 12, so let's multiply this by 3, and let's multiply the 3 by 4. Okay, so if we go ahead and do that, 1 times 3 and 4 times 3, that's going to be 3/12. And then 1/3 multiplied by 4 and 4, top and bottom, is going to be 4/12. If we go ahead and add these together, now that they have common denominators, we can say 3 plus 4. 3 plus 4 is going to equal 7, so our final sum, or answer to an addition problem, is going to be 7/12. We had common denominators here. The LCM here is 12, so we can go ahead and write them both over 12ths instead. For number 4, we have 2/3, and we're adding 1/4. So it looks like we're going to have the LCM be 12 again, so that's kind of nice. Don't have to do extra work. So we have 2/3 here plus this 1/4. So we know we're going to use 12 as our common denominator, so this 3 is going to multiply by 4. This 2 will do the same. For this 4, let's multiply that one by 3, and let's do the same thing on top. So let's see. If we rewrite 2/3, 2 times 4 is 8, 3 times 4 is 12. And then the 4th is going to turn into 3/12. Okay, they do have common denominators now, so we can go ahead and write it as one fraction. So we can write 8 plus 3 over 12. 8 plus 3 is 11, so our final sum here is going to be 11/12. So we have our common denominators of 12ths, then we could add the numerators together, and our final answer was 11/12. Okay, let's check out number 5. For number 5, looks like we have 12ths again, so it's kind of nice, right? So even though we have to get common denominators, we know what they're going to be for these 3 in a row if we've already done the work. And so let's try to make these be 12ths as well. So we have 3/4 plus 2/3. So we know they're going to meet at 12, so 4 times 3 gets you 12. 3 times 3, we have to do the same thing on top. As long as the bottoms are 12, that's what we're looking for here. And so multiply it by 4 over 4. 3 times 3 is 9 over 12. And then 2 times 4 is going to be 8, so that's going to be 8 over 12. We have common denominators now, so we can go ahead and put these both over 12 and say this is going to be 9 plus 8. 9 plus 8 is 17, so we have 17/12. And if you want to write this as a mixed number, then 12 fits into 17 one time with 5 left over, so it's going to be 5/12. All right, so checking this out, we do have these common denominators of 12, which is why we're allowed to then add the numerators once they match. And so we have 12ths all the way through. Okay. For number 6, it looks like we have 1/2 plus 1/5. So these are new denominators. So let's go ahead and see when do 2 and 5 meet for the first time. Again, if you like to go through multiples in your head, that's fine. Looks like this 1 is the GCF, so we have 2 and 5. So multiplying 1 times 2 times 5, that's going to be 10. So we're looking for 10 for our LCM or LCD, or least common denominator. So we have 1/2 plus 1/5. We're trying to make both of these bottoms 10. So for the 2, we multiply by 5, top and bottom. And for the 5, we multiply by 2, top and bottom. Okay, so 1/2 is equivalent to 5/10. And then 1/5 is equivalent to 2/10. Okay, so we do have common denominators. We're going to have 5 plus 2 on top over 10. And 5 plus 2 is going to be 7, so we have 7/10 for our final answer. I don't think that can be simplified. We do have these common denominators of 10, and so 7/10, final sum. For number 7, we have different denominators. So we have 2/5 adding on to 1/3, or 1/3 added on rather. And let's go ahead and see, let's move this down just a little bit. Let's see, 5 and 3. When do 5 and 3 meet for the first time? Let's see, they have 1 in common, that's their GCF, 5 and 3. So it looks like we have a 1 times 5 times 3, so I think that's going to be 15, right, the first time they meet. So let's go ahead and take this 2/5 and let's add the 1/3. But we're going to go ahead and rewrite them using 15ths instead, so it's times 3 times 3, and let's times 5 and times 5. Okay, so 2/5 is the same thing as 6/15, or it's equivalent, and then 1/3 is equivalent to 5/15. All right, we have the same size pieces of 15ths, which is nice. So 15, that was the whole goal. 6 plus 5 on top is going to be 11, so 11/15 is going to be our final answer. So we really like having these common denominators. We just had to work a little bit harder than in the past practices where we had common denominators, but 11/15 would be our final answer. For number 8, looks like we have 5ths and 3rds again, so we know they are going to meet at 15, so let's use 15ths again. So let's say we have 3 over 5. We're going to go ahead and add 2 over 3. And I'm going to go ahead and multiply this left one by 3 over 3 and multiply this one by 5 over 5. All right, now if we do that, 3 times 3 is 9, so we have 9 over 15, and then we're going to have 10 over 15. So 9 over 15 plus 10 over 15 is going to be, let's see, that's going to be 9 plus 10 over 15. 9 plus 10 is 19, so we have 19 over 15. And as a mixed number, that's going to go in, what, one time? So 15 fits into 19 one time with 4 left over, so that's 4/15. Cool. So we got the common denominators of 15, because that was the same as in number 7, so we already knew that. So that's 15ths all the way through. We got an improper fraction for an answer, which you could leave, or if you want to practice getting your mixed numbers, then go ahead and divide and find out it's 1 and 4/15. Let's check out number 9. For number 9, we have 4ths and 5ths, so a little bit different. So we have 4 and 5, so when do 4 and 5 meet for the first time? So 4 and 5, looks like they have nothing in common, so their GCF is 1. So the 4 comes down and the 5 comes down. So it looks like this 1 times 4 times 5, so 20 is the magic number we're using for our LCM or LCD. So let's see, 1/4 plus 4/5, and let's go ahead and get 20. So 4 multiplied by 5 will get you 20, so we should do the same thing on top. And then 5 multiplied by 4 should get you 20, so let's do the same thing on top for that one, okay? So they're gonna have common denominators, so I'm actually gonna skip a step relative to the first page, so because we know they're gonna both have 20 on bottom, right? That was the whole point. So 1 times 5 is gonna be 5, and then 4 times 4 rather is gonna be 16, so it's gonna be 5 plus 16, right? 5 plus 16 is gonna be 21, so it's gonna be 21 over 20. And that goes in 1 time with 1 left over, so 1 and 1/20th. Okay, so we did get common denominators. I saved one step here, hopefully because you see the point that they will both be over 20, otherwise we were maybe making a mistake. So this would just save one step, but we are still gonna get 20ths as our smallest denominator. For number 10, we have fifths and fourths again, so we know our LCD or LCM is gonna be 20. So let's go ahead and take this 1/5 and let's add the 3/4. Right away we are going to try to get these to be 20. So that's when 5 and 4 meet for the first time, or they're LCM or LCD. So 4 is going to multiply by 5 top and bottom. Now again, just like in number 9, I'm going to just write one fraction bar because we know they're going to be over 20. 1 times 4 is going to be 4, and 3 times 5 is going to be 15. So 4 plus 15 is going to be 19. So 19 over 20 is going to be our final answer. All right, so we got 20ths here, the common denominator, the least common denominator, so 19/20ths is our final answer. Here's number 11. For number 11, looks like we have halves and sixths. So let's see when 2 and 6 meet for the first time. So in the previous ones, you can technically just multiply them because their GCF was 1, so it would maybe be 12, but in this case, notice how their GCF is 2, so we're left with a 1 and a 3. And so if we go ahead and multiply 2 times 1 times 3, the LCM is actually 6. So be careful when their GCF is not 1, so we have 1/2 plus 1/6. And so if the LCM or LCD is actually 6, then we should just multiply this one on the left by 3 and 3 to get 6. And you can either leave this one alone, or you can say you're timesing it or multiplying it by 1. Regardless, that one doesn't need to change because it already has the denominator we're looking for, which is going to be 6, okay? 1 times 3 on top is 3, 1 times 1 is going to be 1. 3 plus 1 is going to be 4, so 4/6 is going to be the sum here. But keep in mind 4 over 6 can be simplified, so what we can do is rewrite 4 as 2 times 2 and rewrite 6 as 2 times 3. So notice they have a GCF of 2, so at the very end you're going to want to just double check that you can simplify, and so 2/3 would actually be our most final answer here. So we got our common denominator of 6, but afterwards check to see that you can simplify after you've added as well. Okay. For number 12, it looks like we have 5/6 and 2/3, so 2 new denominators. So we have 6 and thirds. When do 6 and 3 meet for the first time? You might be able to do that in your head. 3 goes into this 2 times, and 3 goes into this 1 time. So 3 times 2 times 1. Oh, so 6 is the first time they meet. So let's see, we have 5/6 plus this 2/3. Now they meet at 6 for the first time, so 6 doesn't have to do anything, but I'm just going to write times 1. And then 3 times 2 is going to get you 6. So 6 is the common denominator. So let's put 6 on bottom. 5 times 1 is 5. 2 times 2 is going to be 4. So we have 5 plus 4, that's going to be 9. So it's 9 over 6. And that can be simplified because 9 is the same thing as 3 times 3, and 6 is the same thing as 2 times 3. So notice they have a GCF of 3. And so if you simplify that, that's just going to be 3 over 2, or as a mixed number, 1 and 1/2. Okay, so common denominator here is 6. That's the least common denominator. But then notice that you can simplify after to get 1 1/2. All right, cool. Here's number 13. For number 13, looks like we have fifths and thirds. So maybe you can look back up at one of the previous problems, but we've already done this. They meet at 15 for the first time. So I'm going to go ahead and put 1/5 plus 2/3. And we know they're going to meet at 15. So how are we going to get that? 5 times 3 and times 3. And this one's going to do times 5 and times 5. Alrighty, so if we do that, they should both be over 15. So let's just put 15 on bottom. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 5 is 10. So we have 3 plus 10 on top. That's going to be 13/15ths. And that can't be simplified just because 13 is prime and the factors of 15 also don't go into it. So this one is actually nice and short, but our common denominator, our least common denominator, was 15. For number 14, we have 4 and 5. In a previous problem, we found out that they meet at the first time at 20. That's their LCM or LCD. So let's go ahead and make these both over 20. So we have 1/4 plus 3/5. How do we make these both 20? Well, 5 times 4 is going to get you that 20, and then 4 times 5 is going to get you that 20. Okay, so if we do that, both denominators should be 20, which is what we were hoping for or looking for. 1 times 5 is 5, and then 3 times 4 is 12. So we have 5 plus 12, that's going to be 17. And 17 over 20 can't be simplified because 17 is prime and 20 has no factor of 17, right? So 20 is the LCD or LCM, and that's as far as we can go. For number 15, we have two new denominators paired up together. So we have eighths and we have thirds. So let's see when these meet for the first time. So we have eighths and then we have thirds. So they have nothing in common besides 1. So if that's the case, then you can just multiply them together. So that's going to be 24. All right, so we have 1/8 plus this 2/3, and they're going to meet at 24. So let's multiply this one by 3 and 3. And for this one, let's do 8 and 8. If we do that, both denominators will be over 24. So let's put 24 on bottom. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 8 is 16. So we have 3 plus 16, that's going to be 19. So 19 over 24, and 19 is prime and not a factor of 24. So 24 is our common denominator, our least common denominator, and 19/24 is our answer. For 16, we have 6 and 4, and if you're thinking just multiply them to get 24, that's actually not going to be the least common denominator because their GCF isn't 1, right? 6 and 4, they have a 2 in common. 2 goes in here 3 times and 2 times, so they actually meet at 2 times 3 is 6 times 2 is 12. So we want 12 for our LCM. So let's take this 5/6 plus this 3/4, and we want 12. So let's do 6 times 2 and times 2 to get the 12, and let's do 4 times 3 times 3 to get the 12. Alrighty, so if we do that, we've strategically gotten 12ths down here. 5 times 2 is 10 on top, 3 times 3 is 9 on top. So 10 plus 9 is going to be 19 over 12. No common factors, so the GCF is 1, can't be simplified, but we can write it as a mixed number as 1 and 7/12. All right, so if it couldn't be simplified, we should keep the same denominator all the way through of 12ths, 12ths, and 12ths, which was our LCM or LCD. So there you have 16 practice problems on adding fractions with uncommon denominators. So just make sure you use the concept of LCM to find out when they meet for the first time. Rewrite those fractions using the same denominator and then add the numerators. Check to see if you can simplify using a GCF, and then you're done. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, keep up the great work, and I'll see you in the next one.